Hi, folks, and welcome. We're right at half past the hour. As usual, we'll give a little bit of a grace period to let some folks find the right link and let their browsers work through everything they need to do to get them to the right place. But while we give them a minute, I will just say welcome. Thank you for joining us. My name, if you weren't around for yesterday or this is kind of your first IIIF event, my name is Josh Hadro. I'm the managing director of the IIIF Consortium. So I work with Glenn Robson and Caitlin Perry, who are on this call as well, to facilitate online and in-person events like this, all the community calls, and the different group meetings that we have in the IIIF community. And a lot of that leads to the kind of work that will be showcasing in this second set of lightning talks that we have here today. So just by way of letting you all know what we have in store. So we have 5 lightning talks. We actually had one person who was not able to submit a lightning talk. So there were originally going to be 6, but unfortunately that one person isn't able to join us. So if hopefully they can present at a future event or at the annual conference or some point down the line. But that gives us a little bit of breathing room, a little bit more time for the end of the session. So what we will do is in just a minute, we will play through the recordings of these lightning talks. So Caitlin is going to share her screen in just a minute and play the recordings of the lightning talks, although all of, or just about all, if not every single one of the presenters of these lightning talks is also able to join us here today during the session. So we will have ample time to be able to ask questions and talk about some of the things that are brought up in the course of these recordings. And as I said, we'll take those questions at the end. We'll do it all together in a Q&A following the playback of these lightning talks. But that said, we'll take that time for the questions, but in the meantime, feel free to put questions in the chat as they occur to you. If you don't want to forget them, you can type them into the chat and we'll try to take note of those and make sure that we resurface them at the end of the session in a little bit. So I think that is everything that I have in terms of announcements and tap dancing while we waited for a few more people to join us. The last thing I'll say is, once again, if you're just joining us now, welcome. Thanks for joining us. This is, we're kind of right in the middle of the IIIF online conference. So this is the counterpart that we do to the in-person events we do each late spring, early summer. So this is our big online meeting, where we gather together, watch best practices, and see what the community has to offer. Caitlin, unless there's anything else to share in terms of logistics, I think we can get going.
No, I think we're good. So I will share my screen. Bear with me for a second.
Excellent, thank you. So as Caitlin gets the screen share set up, I am happy to introduce the first lightning talk for today, which is, and this actually came up yesterday, there's a lot of interest and excitement around this tool that you'll see. So this is Serverless-IIIF, which just released a major version, and talking about Serverless-IIIF will be Michael B. Klein from Northwestern University.
Hello. My name is Michael Klein, and I am the tech lead for the development team at Northwestern University Libraries. I'm here today to talk about Serverless-IIIF, a highly performant IIIF image service that runs on Amazon Web Services. The code that is now Serverless-IIIF started as a challenge. Build a tiny, scalable IIIF server in just a couple days' time. We had been experimenting with other options, but found that every solution we tested required more configuration, tuning, and server resources than we were willing to dedicate to it. The result of this challenge was Node IIIF, a IIIF image API version 2.1 compliant package for Node.js that could interpret a request path and perform the requested image or metadata transformations. I presented this proof of concept at Open Repositories in Hamburg in the summer of 2019, and just a few weeks later we had cobbled together a service that could run as a serverless Lambda function behind an API gateway on AWS. By March 2020, we had released the first version of Serverless-IIIF to the AWS Serverless Application Repository, complete with a one-click self-configuring deployment script. Over the next 3 years, we made several improvements to both the service and the deployment template. In addition to using AWS CloudFront to cache responses, we were able to use it to devise a workaround for the 6 megabyte response limit built into the integration between the AWS Lambda and AWS API Gateway services. Version 3 brought the ability to attach custom code to pre-process requests and post-process responses, allowing for greater flexibility than we could ever offer through configuration alone. With these request and response hooks, you can add authentication and authorization, more complex source image locations than the default implementation provides, put hard limits on either the pixel size or the byte size of requested images, or just about anything else you can imagine, all without having to touch the Serverless-IIIF code itself. Even better, these functions can be written in any language or platform supported by AWS Lambda, not just Node.js, but also Java, Go, PowerShell, Python, Ruby, or even a fully custom runtime. With the release of AWS's Lambda function URLs in April 2022, we were able to remove the API Gateway component altogether, providing a more streamlined deployment. We also added support for customized versions of the underlying image processing library, which allows us to offer a version that is compatible with JPEG 2000 source images. Finally, we turned over governance of the project to the Samvera community, an institutional partnership dedicated to building tools for preservation of and access to digital academic and cultural heritage materials. In the middle of all of this, we were finally able to replace our homegrown wrapper with a solution built on the released version of Serverless-IIIF, removing the need to maintain both our version and the community version in parallel. This past August saw the simultaneous release of Node-IIIF version 4 and Serverless-IIIF version 5, which adds support for version 3 of the IIIF image API while retaining support for version 2.1. It also takes advantage of the new AWS Lambda streaming response type, which eliminates the need for our janky workaround for the 6 megabyte response limit and minimizes the time to first byte for the response. Other new options make it easier to provide the correct response headers to both GET and options requests to overcome issues with web browser cross-origin resource sharing protections. Last but not least, we've simplified our deployment template, eliminating everything that isn't essential to IIIF functionality, and instead offer new support code and documentation to make it easier to deploy the service as part of a larger infrastructure stack, including for tools such as AWS CloudFormation and Terraform, as well as the recent open source fork of Terraform known as OpenTofu. Now that version 5 is out the door, we're looking at our future roadmap. We hope to put together a survey in the coming months to get feedback on who's using Serverless-IIIF and at what stage of deployment, what features are important to current and prospective users, and how we can improve everything from code to deployment to documentation to support. We'll also be gathering information on what source image formats people are using, not just file formats and compression, but also multi-resolution page dimensions, tile sizes, alpha channels, which are currently completely unsupported, and other issues. Finally, I'd like to see more flexibility in the information document generated for each image. We currently use a fixed algorithm to determine the tiles and scale factors that are available, and while it works fine for the vast majority of cases, we could probably be making more informed choices based on image metadata and service configuration. If you'd like to know more, feel free to check out our GitHub repositories and documentation, or you can get in touch with me directly via GitHub discussions, email, or Slack. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael. And there's already a question in the chat, which is great. So thanks for the offer to elaborate on that in more depth during the Q&A. But up next, we have Patrik Granholm from the National Library of Sweden talking about Manuscripta SE, a national research infrastructure for medieval and early modern manuscripts in Sweden.
Hello, my name is Patrik Granholm. I'm a curator of medieval and early modern manuscripts at the National Library of Sweden. I'm also the creator and one of the developers of manuscripta.se, which I'm going to present here. So, manuscripta.se is a national research infrastructure for medieval and early modern manuscripts in Sweden. It is developed and maintained by the National Library of Sweden. It currently contains descriptions and digitizations of manuscripts dating from the 4th to the 19th century, mainly written in Greek, Latin, Old Swedish and Icelandic. There are currently 520 manuscripts in the database, of which 379 are digitized in full. And the total number of images is around 110,000. The long-term aim of Manuscripts.se is to include all medieval and early modern manuscripts in Sweden. We use TI as the metadata format for the manuscript descriptions and IIIF for the digitized manuscripts, of course. The infrastructure is built entirely using open source software. At the core we have an XSDB XML database which provides indexing and search functionality and functions for converting TI to HTML, etc. And our IIIF implementation uses the IIP image server and the Mirador image viewer. The editing interface is built with React.js, and the source code and the TI files are available on GitHub. However, the source code for the editing interface has not been released yet, but will be soon. The images of the digitized manuscripts are available free of restriction as public domain. So I will now give you a short demo of Manuscripta, starting with the search interface. Here you can specify search criteria. You can search full text, meaning search full text of the description, or you can search for author, title, place name, etc. The default view lists all manuscripts in the database, and we can then sort them by, for instance, date of origin, get the oldest one first. And we can further filter the search results by facets, for instance, selecting all the manuscripts of the National Library, and Latin as language will list us all the Latin manuscripts. The search result list has a thumbnail view, as you can see, but it's also has what we call a mini viewer. It's a browsable thumbnail viewer. You can sort of click your way through a manuscript by either using the keyboard, the forward and back button, or by moving the mouse pointer to the right of the thumbnail, which will sort of automatically scroll through the thumbnail view. And you can also use the down button to go to the next manuscript in the results list. You can also open up the digitized manuscript in the Mirador viewer by clicking on the IIIF icon. And you can of course open multiple manuscripts here. And you can go to a more detailed description by clicking on the link here, for instance this manuscript A137, and it opens with a description in the left hand view and the digitized manuscript in the right hand view in the Mirador viewer, and it opens automatically to the first numbered page, in this case 1 recto. And here you can see that there is a sort of detailed description of the content and the physical description, and you can click on the folio references and it will take you straight to that page in the manuscript. I will now show you how the editing interface works, mainly how the IIIF manifest editor part works. So this is a TI file of a recently digitized manuscript, and I will now open up import image data in a CSV file which contains information about the URL, the width and height of each image of that manuscript. So I will import the CSV file, and as you can see the images are displayed immediately in the MOREAU viewer. There are no descriptive metadata at the moment, but I can add, for instance, folio numbering using a bulk rename function. And I can start, I know the one vector starts at the image number 7 and ends, the foliation ends at 464. So I can start that as a starting point, an ending point, and adding one vector as the start foliation. And it will sort of immediately be reflected in the image viewer also. And here you can also rearrange the images or remove, add images. And the the IIIF manifest contains some basic metadata about the manuscript, which is extracted from the TI description. For instance, the repository name, the shelf mark, descriptive title, date, part of the support, the extent, language of the manuscript. And the structural metadata is also stored then in the TI file in the facsimile element, where each image has a surface element with graphic elements and URL width and height attributes. And any change made in the TI file is immediately creates a new IIIF manifest when the TI file is stored. So the TI file is sort of the master file, and the manifest is generated automatically from that TI file. Yeah, that was it from me. If you have further questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. You can find my contact details here, and you can also reach me via the manuscripta.se site.
Excellent. Thank you, Patrik. That then brings us to a talk on the IIIF Search API and dynamic evolving manifest generation, facing the unknown. And to present that is Diego, Pino, Navarro, and Allison Sherrick from the Metropolitan New York Library Council.
Welcome, everyone. Diego and I are presenting today about how we designed and developed multiple versions of the IIIF Content Search API in Archipelago, our open source repository system being developed and supported at the Metropolitan New York Library Council. As some of you may know, Archipelago allows repository administrators to customize and generate dynamic metadata, display, and API representations from raw data, including dynamic generation of IIIF manifests. Archipelago uses a blueprint system driven by Twig, a pseudo-PHP language, exposed to our administrative users via the regular backend user interface. This system allows us to cover a vast amount of general metadata and display use cases. Twig template integration also permits us to drive and expose multiple versions of the IIIF APIs side by side, using sophisticated logic to support a large variety of well-known IIIF-enabled viewers and our own customized implementations. The flexibility innate to using dynamic templates also means that when searching against a IIIF manifest, we have to consider how to account for many unknown variables. Canvas IDs, layouts, and sizes can vary considerably. We cannot, nor should, index a manifest directly into our backend Solr, as many of you would, but instead we rely on source ingredients that need to be cooked back into shape. Amidst the extensibility of our system, not all is unknown. Our IIIF image API IDs are stable and can be used to trace back inside our Solr which file, or part of it in the case of a multiple page PDF, has corresponding generated OCR or manually applied annotations, and in that way retrieve the relevant highlights when searching. To exemplify this, we will start by searching against a non-standard manifest generated by a template we built for this use case, a single canvas containing 2 tiled images.
As you can see, the results are being correctly highlighted on the second image inside the canvas. MOREAU here is sitting our Content Search API version 1, but Archipelago supports also version 2, which no viewer right now supports, and also version 0 to be universal viewer compatible. To make this more interactive, I'm going to edit the manifest and make a tiny change here and change it from 1 column and 2 rows to 2 columns and a single row. I'm saving, and now we're loading the first. I'm going to do the same search again. You can see the annotations are highlighted again, but offset. This happened in real time. So how does this work for us? First, this manifest explicitly states inside that they support the 3 versions of the content search API in the service key. These API endpoints have a very specific structure for us. We're passing the data about the template containing it, the API version, if we're using a simple or advanced search, which is the topic for our presentation, and the resource UID we're searching against. This is the one that contains the raw data feeding the template, basically repeating what the client did before. And we use JMS paths to extract just what is needed, flipping the order of the structure and putting the IIIF image IDs, or constant in this whole like shifting scenario, as stop keys, referencing canvases and their selectors, if present. Using this, we limit our backend search to OCR generated only by those images, because our repositories can contain millions of OCR documents. Returning natively via the variant state library Solar OCR highlight plugin to 11 hits. These are then reprocessed to be IIIF compliant annotations, and will revert the results back to the ID of canvases holding images. To make this performant, we have 2 levels of caches that get invalidated automatically on any modification. If the digital object itself, the raw data changes, if a template changes, if the viewer settings changes, everything gets invalidated. But if not, we actually have like a very performant system. Of course, there's more fun to this, but we only have 7 minutes. What is next for us? Video audio annotations. For this, we're going to convert SRTs or VDTs into mini OCR documents, using the temporal dimensions as image dimensions. This approach allows us to use the same Solar backend logic and tools, and we can transform the fake image-based hits on the fly into time ranges when the results come back.
Thank you so much to the community, especially to Mike and Johannes for all the work and help, and everyone else for all the amazing tools, viewers, specs, and corporate examples. Please let us know if you have any questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Diego and Allison. And Diego said, if there are questions on that, put them in the chat. We see a couple, either in the Q&A section or in the chat. We can make both work. My cat stepping on the mouse. Sorry about that. Up next, we have using the IIIF standards as a baseline for building web application dedicated to the archive and cultural contents from Jean-Charles MOREAU and Marc Buset.
Welcome to this presentation about our new software, which is called Prismia Vision, and how we use IIIF standards as the main guidance for building our datasets and the workflow management in our software. So first things first, our company originally was called Archimen, which activity was mainly documents digitization, but also providing online services for the public archives departments since the late 90s. In late 2019, I called for a change in the strategy and shift the company to focus on the online software for valuable archives and cultural contents. Renamed EidoPolis, the company benefited from the experience and knowledge and resources of the original software called Archinoe. A brand new software would then be developed and called Prismia Vision. When starting the Vision project, we knew that we would build on the existing know-how in the company, but also take the opportunity of a fresh start to implement new concepts and new technologies straight ahead. As we decided to start from the rendering and drive our works backwards, we tested in 2020 Mirador and then OpenSea Dragon, which was, in the end, more flexible for the additions we wanted to develop. Then we appreciated all the advantages provided by IIIF, and we naturally came to the idea that it should be a strong framework for the data managed in the backend. With just a few additions, we should then be able to encapsulate any existing dataset into IIIF-based format and record it in JSON. During the period 2020 to 2023, we laid down all the fundamentals for our new software, and we settled a release candidate in early 2023 and version 1 during the summertime 23. The software should step up to version 1.2 within a few weeks, and it already proposes several features and functions, all based upon IIIF structured data. In order to ensure the retrieval of the data of our existing customers and a smooth integration of the future ones, we created an integration and indexation engine. This engine imports and digests many sources and formats as inputs. Since all the data are recorded in JSON in the database, we use Elasticsearch as a search engine. It allows to build on the fly any query and render anything the users can imagine. Thanks to the data structure and the built-in APIs, the software can deliver collections and manifests to other IIIF compliant software and viewers, such as other vision instances, Universal Viewer, Mirador, and so on. Okay, so now let's see the software in action through a case which has been provided by one of our customers, which is the Département of Lot-et-Garonne in France. The case concerns the photographer of the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, Philippe Lauzin, which collection is spreading across 4 departments and who was born originally in Lot-et-Garonne. So we have as an input the CSV file, which includes all the list of the documents that should be incorporated with all the details. The file is then processed in the software to be integrated. All the documents are then recorded in the database and described as manifests in the main collection. They include all the indexes and metadata. Once integrated as a subcollection, the documents can be searched in any data field. As you can see, we created with the CMS a search page, including at the top the search bar and the detailed results at the bottom. Then with a single click, you can open the viewer and see all the details of the document and have access to the manifest of the document that you can copy and which we can see and extract here. Then you can paste it directly into Mirador and visualize all the exact same details from an outside viewer through the IIIF standard and displaying both metadata, links, and rights. The software can also integrate the same way the EAD XML finding aids, the Alto OCR contents, as well as the PDF finding aids that include texts. You can see here on the left a document which is described in an XML EAD finding aid with all its tags and indexes, and on the right side its representation through the IIIF Mirador viewer in both English and French languages. On top of that, we included in the software the possibility to scan and include all the details of an external IIIF manifest. Doing that, it becomes fully searchable and displayable in the list of results of the software. Of course, its resources remain on the origin remote server and would be accessible through its IIIF manifest. Regarding the Lauzin collection case, we now have the possibility to propose our customer different scenarios. Of course, these scenarios imply to level up the entities to IIIF capability. They would have to perform a common effort, resulting in a shared benefit, which consists in having access to an extended collection with the full research capability and the direct access to the resources where they are located. This presentation is now complete, so feel free to comment or to raise some questions.
Excellent. Thank you. Lovely to see new tooling, new CMS, new options available here. So thank you, Jean-Charles and Marc. And that brings us to the final of the lightning talks that we have for this session, although we have another one for you all tomorrow. And this is covering the ETU Suite, an image ETL solution for IIIF-based image repositories by Jie Song.
Hello everyone, my name is Jie Song. Today I'm happy to give a talk about how can IIIF help image ETL. So first of all, what is image ETL? We have heard of ETL before, right? In the text realm. So it simply means to extract, transform, and load text from one format to another. But in image realm, this task is more astounding. Because image normally far more complex than text. So usually we have more professional tools to manipulate that. Fortunately, we have IIIF standard such as image API and presentation API. Those API clearly define how to operate on images. Also, these days with the power of AI, we are enabled to carry on more advanced tasks such as image detection, image segmentation, or image aggregation on all these images. So I will show the idea of ETL in 3 cases. Case 1 is to match image and the metadata. Normally, we will handle a lot of images and a lot of metadata, right? Some of them are very large, as I showed here, and sometimes they are very large in number, right? So the task is how to match different images to their metadata. Well, I leverage the power of Excel to do the task. You can see in this way, it is easy to work on your metadata because all the data is in Excel, right? And the second case is how to categorize images of different types. In this example, I have a lot of images extracted from a lot of PDFs. I would like to first categorize their content to mark them as cover, preference, or content so that I can further do some analysis such as a layout analysis or even the OCR. So with the help of IIIF, the task is accomplished very easy. The third case is about aggregate visually similar images. In this case, first of all, I embedded each image into a vector, which means I can use a vector store in the backend to aggregate those visually similar images, as you can see now on the window. So if I can very easily aggregate the similar images, I can very easily do the reduction to remove the duplicated images. The last part is about the architecture. It divided into 4 layers. There are infrastructure layer, persistent layer, application layer, and the presentation layer. It's a very open structure, and components can be added to this structure easily. So I would like to talk more about this structure maybe next year in our IIIF annual meeting.
Excellent. Thank you to Jie Song for that. And that is the end of the recording. So now we have some time to go through questions or discussion about any of the pieces that came up in the videos here. So there was maybe the first question to go through was back for the first video. So Brittany asked, could this work in OpenStack? And I don't actually know what that is, Kingling? And Michael, you said you could elaborate a little bit on that. So by all means.
Yeah, sure. First of all, I understand there's still plenty of Chinling deployed out there. The project was retired 3 years ago, so I'm not sure anyone's going to be setting up new instances of it, but for existing ones, the core of serverless-IIIF, I touched on it very briefly in the presentation, is actually a Node.js library called Node-IIIF, and it can parse a IIIF request path and do the transformations and respond an image from any source that can return a readable stream to a source image. So all serverless-IIIF is, aside from a few expanded features, is a wrapper around that reads, creates a readable stream to an image stored as an S3 object and hands it off to Node-IIIF. So any platform that can run Node.js with custom libraries and that can, hand off, connect to a readable stream anywhere, can IIIF, a serverless-IIIF instance could be pretty easily written for that platform. The AWS one is just what we use, but I know there are thoughts about porting it to Google Cloud and Azure and some other things. It's not hard.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. As Brittany said in the chat, yeah, I'll reiterate, thank you. Okay, so we have a question here in the Q&A poll. This is for Manuscripta.se. Is the compare view in Mirador accessible elsewhere or in any other way from the results list as shown in the demo? Yeah, Patrik, I'll let you field
that. You mean if our IIIF server is sort of has cores enabled, or I'm not sure if I understood the question. It's all the images are accessible in other sort of viewers. They are, if that was the question.
Raji, are you still? Yeah, you're here. Do you want to clarify the question? I guess I don't want to try and interpret it on your behalf.
Actually, the question was more about the UI and if the compare view in Mirador is accessible to the user in other ways than from the result list, as you
you mean, yes. Oh, well, you can open it up sort of empty, and then you can sort of add external sources also, and sort of, yeah. So you don't, or you mean if we have a standalone viewer, we have sort of, it's sort of integrated into the search interface, but it's sort of accessible also without searching, so you can sort of use it as a standalone viewer, but via the search interface.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. What other questions do we have and that we can answer about any of these videos from here today? Let folks take another minute in case they're typing either into the Q&A box or the chat window here. All right. Well, we'll make a last call here for questions for our lightning talk presenters. But otherwise, I think Caitlin has maybe a few quick words about logistics for tomorrow. But otherwise, just last comment, just a public thanks to Michael Klein at Northwestern for the support on Serverless-IIIF. Yeah, I'll echo that. You know, it's an amazing option to have. It's really awesome to see all the recent development and all the other components that go into it. Yeah, and you know, likewise to all the folks. I'll even mention it if you were on the workshops earlier today. The Canopy was really popular. A lot of different exciting stuff happening out there in terms of components and tooling for the IIIF community. So thanks to everybody who works on some of those and provides feedback. But otherwise, I think Caitlin, last words here.
Before we let you all go for today, if you're planning to come back for the lightning talks tomorrow, we will be in this same Zoom room, the same link that you can access through the Eventbrite portal. If you are registered for a workshop, you should have received an email with a separate Zoom link. So all of those are happening concurrently in different rooms. If you don't know where you need to be tomorrow, shoot me an email and we'll get you squared away. We have plenty of time between now and tomorrow when those start to get everyone in the right space. Okay.
Well, fabulous. Then thank you all for joining us. This is the second of 3 days for our online working and learning meeting. But yeah, join us tomorrow for the last day of this. And thank you so much. We'll see you then. Take care.